4 rounds in, and we've a much clearer picture of how teams are shaping up for the season. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. First up on Friday, we had Edinburgh 19, Lions 22. Edinburgh kept going ahead in this one, and then the Lions would peg them back. It was 5-all at half time. Then Edinburgh score a try. Lions score a try to tie it up. Edinburgh go ahead again. Lions come back again. Then finally, 4 minutes to go, Lions get ahead for the first time through a penalty. Edinburgh don't have enough then to come over the top of them. In the end, Edinburgh, they play decent rugby, but a lot of their defence, they kind of fell off a lot of tackles, really, that allowed the Lions to get in for some of their tries. Lions continue to surprise, and a lot of other teams are going to find it hard against them, I think, the rest of the season. Then also on Friday, we had a Connacht 20, Munster 11. There's a full review of this on the channel if you want to check it out. Munster made it close on the scoreboard for a lot of the game, but really in terms of the match itself, Connacht seemed to be just a little bit above them a lot. Like, they got on top of them in the scrum, winning plenty of penalties there. They look better with ball in hand. Munster still look very hesitant ball in hand and a bit clueless as well when they're on attack. For Munster fans, the question I'd ask you is, are you getting worried, or is it just too early in the season? Then into Saturday, we had Zebre 20, Stormers 37. So Zebre got a few tries in this one, but Stormers were able to kind of keep them at arm's length for much of the match and then pulled away towards the end as well. Stormers, defending champions, looking very strong. Zebre still look like they're going to give most teams a game, though, at least at home. Leinster 54, Sharks 34. So Sharks are in this one for much of the game. They're actually ahead for a period as well. Leinster, though, had that little bit extra, and they were able to pull away towards the end and make it look a little more comfortable on the scoreboard than it was maybe on the pitch for much of the game. Abrams scored 2 tries for the Sharks, and one of them is an early contender for a try of the season. He collects a high ball in his own half, slaloms through about 3 or 4 Leinster defenders, kicks over the top, and is able to beat Gary Ringrose for pace to dot down. And yeah, there was just a little bit of magic from him. But overall, Leinster just had a little bit more quality between the two. Still, Sharks are looking pretty good. Scarlets 10, Cardiff 16. So Cardiff got out to a fairly comfortable lead to begin with, but then in the second half, Scarlet started to peg them back. They were actually on attack with not too many minutes left on the clock. Deep inside the Cardiff 22, under the posts, they had them under the pump as well, but then Fafita, with a dangerous clear out, gets himself a red card. Cardiff get a penalty, they're able to clear, and then they're able to see out the game. So Scarlet came very close to pinching this one in the end. Cardiff definitely going to be the happier of the two after that. Ulster 47, Ospreys 17. So Ulster put on a bit of a show again in the Kingspan Stadium. They just had too much for Ospreys. Plenty of tries from them. Ospreys got a couple themselves as well, but the result was never in doubt once Ulster got themselves ahead. Glasgow 34, Bulls 21. So Bulls have looked pretty impressive this year. They look like the side that made the final last year. Glasgow have been a bit up and down, but this performance from Glasgow really was a bit of a statement from them. They had their passing game going and they looked hot on attack. Bulls still were able to get over for a few tries themselves, but Glasgow at home at least are going to be a tough proposition this year. They've got to get a bit more consistent with their form away from home, though, if they're going to cement that place, for the playoffs for the end of the season. Finally, then on Sunday, we had Benetton 34, Dragons 14. So Benetton bossed pretty much the first half. Dragons then start the second half with a try. They bring on their bench. They've got a pretty strong bench as well. That gets them another try as well, and they're starting to peg Benetton back a little bit, but then Benetton actually finished the stronger of the two and pull away. And in the end, pretty comfortable win for them. They're showing that at least at home, they're a match for pretty much anyone in the league, other than maybe the top sides. But then, similar to a lot of the teams, really, is getting that away form is the thing that's really going to make you stand out from the others. Because winning your home games is almost a must in the URC this year. And then picking up those points away from home is really what's going to make the difference for you. But for now, they're doing pretty well. Dragons, they've had some decent results this year. This one, they probably would have thought, at least at the start of the year, they'd be a bit more competitive in. They're now got to pick themselves up and see how they do next time. Let's take a quick look at the table now. So we've got Leinster leading the way there, 4 from 4. Can't really ask much more from their squad. Ulster climbed back up into second thanks to that pretty comfortable win against Ospreys. Got Stormers, the only other unbeaten team in the league other than Leinster. They're in third place, 3 from 3. It's going to be interesting when those two meet each other. Fourth place then we have Benetton, who've looked really good at home, but they do need to produce some away form if they're going to stay around that position for the rest of the season. Then we have the Bulls, who lost at the weekend, but are still looking pretty strong overall. The surprise package from the South Africans this year, the Lions up into 6th now, and they're definitely going to be looking to maintain that. Don't want to drop off, in the mid-season or whatever. Glasgow then, mixed start to the season for them, but they were able to get themselves up to 7th now. Then they're followed by the Sharks, who, along with the Stormers, do have a game in hand. So, especially for them, their position in the league might be a little bit false, but you have to remember that game in hand is against the Stormers. So only one of those two is really going to benefit from that game. Next time we have Ospreys, who are in 9th place, just outside the playoff places. First of the Welsh teams, and last year, a lot of the Welsh teams finished just outside the playoffs, but they're going to want to push on and actually make it this year if they can. Same with Cardiff, who are in 10th. In 11th, then we have Edinburgh. They've only had one win this season, but they've overall looked pretty decent on attack. But you can see with their for and against their defense is almost as bad as their attack is good, which is a bit of an issue for them. They need to tighten that up a little bit, and they will climb that table. Munster then, they're down a lot lower than maybe we would expect them to be, but if you watch the games this year, they're down about where they deserve to be. 13th then are Dragons, who had a decent start to the season, but they're beginning to sink down now, especially in terms of points, closer to the foot of the table, where, they kind of duel with Zebre normally. So they've got to produce a result, not just a performance, I think, to get themselves out of that little group towards the end. Connacht have climbed from the bottom after that win against Munster. Next up for them is Leinster. Being honest, not seeing them climbing any further, but hey, if they got enough confidence from the last win, maybe they can surprise Leinster. Scarlets then, one of two teams without a win this season, and they haven't really looked like, other than that, like the opening draw, they haven't really looked like getting close to a win either. So they've definitely got work to do. Zebre gave a few people some scares early doors in the season, but they're now back to their familiar position at the foot of the table. But rather than being adrift from the others, there is still the chance there for them to get their first win of the season and get back into that mix there between kind of, 12th down to 16th is still kind of a reasonable place for them to look to be. Let's look ahead to this weekend's fixtures now. On Friday, we have Ospreys versus the Stormers, 9th versus 3rd. Stormers, you have to say, are going to be the favourites for this one, but if Ospreys do want to push up into that top 8 and into the playoff positions. These are the kind of games you've got to get something out of. Also on Friday, we have Connacht versus Leinster. Connacht were able to beat Munster last time out, but Leinster are going to be a very different prospect. It is on the 4G pitch again in the sports ground, but Leinster probably going to have a bit too much quality for them. Although in the past, we have seen that Connacht can cause upsets in these interpros. Into Saturday then, and we start with one of the picks of the round, I feel. We have Lions versus Ulster, 6th versus 2nd. For these two teams, this is a pretty important fixture. For the Lions, they're looking at trying to extend that run that they have going and cementing their place among the top teams in the URC for this year. Ulster, it's going to be, a tough game. Go down to South Africa against any of those teams and pull out a win. It's a real mental challenge for them. And it's that kind of next step I feel that they need to take to go from being challengers to potential champions. After that, we have Sharks versus Glasgow, 8th versus 7th. Two teams have had pretty decent starts to the season. A win here for either of them is going to catapult them right up into the sharp end of the league. Sharks have looked strong in most of their games this year. Glasgow going to be looking for a big statement win down in South Africa. That's followed by Cardiff versus Dragons, 10th versus 13th. A second Welsh derby for Cardiff on the bounce. They're going to want a similar result to last weekend to be able to get their season back on track and get up amongst the playoff spots. Dragons, they've had the performances. They're going to be looking for results as well, though. And Cardiff haven't looked, unbeatable this season. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that they could pull one off here. Edinburgh versus Benetton, 11th versus 4th. Edinburgh, they've looked good on attack, porous in defence. Benetton, they're going to defend aggressively. If they can shut down that attack, then they'll be looking for a statement away win. Scarlets versus Zebre, 15th versus 16th. One of these teams is going to get their first win of the season, more than likely, although Scarlets have already drawn a game this year. Loser is going to be in all kinds of trouble, probably propping the table for a while. Munster versus Bulls, 12th versus 5th. Munster have looked very poor so far this season. Bulls looking like that team that made the final last year. If Munster are careful, they could be in for a bit of a hiding if the Bulls click. Munster playing at home, though, they're definitely going to be up for this one. But the passion that they bring, they've got to match that with their execution as well to get something out of this. Crowd are going to really be up for this as well at Thomond Park. If Munster do start performing, this could be a good one.